Look, Bumble knows you're exhausted by dating. All the must not take yourself too seriously and 6'1" since that matters. And what do I even say other than hey? Well, that's why they're introducing an all-new Bumble with exciting features to make compatibility easier, starting the chat better, and dating safer. They've changed, so you don't have to. Download the new Bumble now.
Welcome back to Podcast Royal at the Podcast Palace, where we are two podcast princesses having a ball talking about the latest royal happenings. How are you, Rachel?
Well, that's a unique introduction and way to start this episode. I'm good. How are you?
I am doing well. It's feels like it's been a while since we last met, but it's just been a week.
I know. Well, it has been a busy week. I know you've got your kitchen reno going. Life is just going on at the speed of light. And I know that we have two really good pieces of news on the royal front. We've got a busier June than maybe we thought we would. So, what do you say we get into it and talk all about it?
Yeah, let's go ahead and kick off the royal rundown.
Yes. So we have two big pieces of news, two confirmed events happening in June that we weren't sure were going to make the cut of this general election scale back, if you want to call it that, until July 4th. So one of the biggest news items to come out of this, I would say it's been a relatively slow week, is the news that Trooping the Color is officially happening. And I think you Jessica kind of predicted that last week, but it's official. It is officially happening. The Colonel's Review is going to happen this upcoming Saturday, June 8th. Then the actual event itself is June 15th, which is the following Saturday. So the Princess of Wales, as expected, will not be at the Colonel's Review to take the salute as part of her role as Colonel of the Irish Guards. We're going to talk more about that in a second. But there are rumors and unconfirmed, but rumors that if she is feeling up to it, she could make a surprise balcony appearance at Buckingham Palace on June 15th. Although I'm not going to get my hopes up, even though, of course, I hope it happens. And she is not going to ride in the carriage procession, but I think we could have assumed that. And speaking of carriage, so the good news is that King Charles will be there Trooping the Color. After all, it is his birthday parade. But this year, which only is his second Trooping the Color, mind you, since becoming monarch, it will look quite different than last year, his first year. So last year, he rode on horseback, which I know you remember, Jessica, listeners, you remember this. That marked the first time that a monarch had ridden on horseback since 1986, which is actually the year I was born. So that tells you how long that's been. And that was the last time Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth rode on horseback. So in subsequent years, she rode in a carriage. So this year, the king and queen will do just that. They will ride in an Ascot Landau carriage, which is the same. I mean, it's the carriages we see every year, Trooping the Color, but it's the same type of carriage that, for example, William and Kate, then later Harry and Meghan rode in for their respective weddings. We've seen these carriages, of course, at Trooping the Color in the past. They're very recognizable. So, okay, I've got a few questions about Trooping the Color that I want to ask you. And so I want to start by asking you your thoughts that Trooping the Color is happening at all, because it was kind of maybe, considering this surprise general election on July 4th. B, that Kate won't be there, although I doubt you're surprised, because I think we were kind of expecting that to be the case. And C, the king's decision to ride in a carriage as he continues to receive cancer treatment. So I know that's a lot, but just in general, your thoughts on Trooping the Color still happening this year?
Yeah, I'm not surprised that Trooping the Color is happening. Like you said, we kind of laid that out last week as a possibility. And I'm also, of course, not surprised to hear that Catherine will not attend the Colonel's Review. But like you, I have been hearing some rumors that there is this realm of possibility, however small, that she could make a balcony appearance. And of course, I would really, really love that, even if it's a very brief one. But, I was thinking about this and I don't know what a balcony appearance would mean, because she's finally been able to go under the radar for a little bit since all of the rumors swirling online, they finally calmed down. So I think on one hand, it could be easiest for her to not make an appearance and kind of keep things low key, as she carries on. But on the other hand, I definitely think the response from the public would be incredibly positive and supportive. And I think it would kind of give everyone that reassurance that she's doing well and she's regaining her health again. So, another question I think to ask here is, do we expect to see George, Charlotte, and Louis on the balcony? I sort of feel like that is likely, which could increase our chances of seeing Catherine. I think we'll just have to wait and see. But either way, no pressure at all to her to do that. And as far as King Charles is concerned, I do think it's totally reasonable to expect him to ride in a carriage and not on horseback this year. That's
Mhm.
not a surprise at all to me. I think it is the right and most sensible decision.
I completely agree. I think that we are just A, lucky to be having this at all. B, I think that it could have been assumed that Kate was not going to be there. And I think we've been hearing for a while now that the king was going to be there, but that the carriage was going to be the decision. So I think that this is the way to go. And so you mentioned in a previous episode, Jessica, that after her awful start to 2024, King Charles has asked Lady Gabriella Kingston to appear. I think this is so sweet to appear on the balcony with him and the rest of the working royals. So I find that so touching. Do you think that we will see a super slim balcony again this year with just working royals like we did last year? Or do you think the king will open it up to, say, Beatrice, Eugenie, Zara, Peter, Louise, James, so on? What are your predictions there?
Yeah, I think that we definitely could see Lady Gabriella. And I feel like we are currently in a season where the royal family is just really rallying around King Charles and Prince William to show support during, the health challenges that the family's been going through this year. And I love that so much. I feel like we saw a lot of that support at the garden party recently, and I think we'll continue to see that at upcoming events like Trooping the Color. And some of these others, maybe where we might not have normally seen some of the extended family in attendance. So I expect to see the cousins show up and help out. Like I said, I think Lady Gabriella could be one of those on the balcony at Trooping the Color. I really hope that she is. I think the king and queen and William and Catherine are they just have to be feeling the love and support from the family right now. And I think they really need it. And this kind of support is just a little silver lining and a reminder of what a blessing family is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you saw this. I actually noticed Fergie did an interview with Hello Magazine, and I don't think the print version is out yet, maybe, but I saw it online, and she talked about her double cancer diagnosis last year, and just how the family is doing with both King Charles and the Princess of Wales diagnoses and treatment as well. And she talked about how she really thinks family unity is key. And so, she's mentioning it, we're all seeing it. And while we're on the subject, her interview, I think she's publicizing her new book that's coming out. It's called A Woman of Intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
But in her interview, she talked about her life now and her experience following going through cancer treatments. And she said, it's really given me a swift kick in the butt, and I'm quoting her here, and told me, right, are you going to start living now at 64, or are you going to keep on not quite living? And she also said, another quote, I really feel as though I've embarked on a new career in my 60s. I'm proud to call myself an author. So I was thinking we could possibly see Fergie on the balcony as well.
I had not considered that, but she was at Christmas at Sandringham. She
Hmm.
was at Easter. And so I think that that could completely be teed up. I think that you are right. I think the garden party attendees, I think Mike and Zara Tyndall, I think Peter Phillips, I think Beatrice and Eugenie, I think, because I will say that the balcony felt very, very slim. I know you remember
Yes.
this last year. Like
Yes.
it looked almost, I don't want to say pathetically slim, but it looked very slim. Like it's almost a sign of just the strength, I guess, of the monarchy, how full that balcony is. That the family is strong and is out in full force. And I really do think that it's going to be a full balcony this year. That is my prediction because it's been such a tough year. 2024 has been. And I think that as a show of the monarchy's strength, I think that it's going to be a full balcony. And I would, of course, love to see the Princess of Wales make a surprise appearance. I'm not going to bet my money on it or hedge my bets or hold my breath, but imagine, would you, what it would be
Yeah.
like if she walked out on the balcony, the roar of the crowds from below. Oh my gosh. It would just like, it's
Well,
giving me goosebumps just thinking about it.
and I think if she doesn't make an appearance, but the children are there, I do think they'll need some of the support from other adults just to keep an
Yeah.
eye on all the kids and be there with them. So either way, I'm expecting a full balcony.
I am too. Just merely from an optics visual perspective of like, wow, that's a full balcony that for whatever reason is visually showing a sign of strength. I think if the kids come, which I hope they do, I think that I mean we haven't seen them right since Christmas either.
Well,
That
we've
I
seen
can.
George a few
That's
times.
right. We
And
have seen George. You're right. You're right. You're
gotten a
right.
few photos, for birthdays and stuff,
True.
but that's it so far.
Yeah, so I think maybe Queen Camilla or Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh could kind of help them out and watch over them in their mom's absence if she's not there. So we'll see. But I just have this feeling that just from a visual perspective, it's going to be a full balcony just for the powerful image of that. So before we move on, because you got some other news that I think broke yesterday about another event that is still on the calendar that we were really not sure about. But before we move on from that, I want to mention that in Kate's place, Lieutenant General James Bucknell, KCB CBE, will take the salute of the troops. And Lieutenant Colonel James Shaw, who is the brigade major of the Household Division, which is the part of the British Army that performs Trooping the Color, shared a really sweet message of support for the Princess of Wales that I want to mention. So, speaking on GB News, he said, "We wish the Colonel of the Irish Guards, so Kate, those are my words, the best of best wishes for her recovery. And again, the Irish Guards are hugely proud to have her as their colonel and want to put on a really special show this year." So that gives me goosebumps and warms my heart. I'm so happy that Trooping the Color is officially happening, and I can't wait to see what surprises we have in store or what's going to happen, because I just have a feeling that especially as the king continues to battle cancer, that it's going to be a very poignant Trooping the Color this year.
Yeah, I agree. And speaking of the news, so if Trooping the Color was the biggest news of the week, I'm going to go ahead and say the second biggest news of the week is that the Japanese state visit is officially scheduled for June 25th through 27th. So
This is
that's really
great news because
exciting.
we were really not sure. We were pretty sure that Trooping the Color was going to continue, but we were really not sure about this. So this is good news.
Yeah, and we've already got a few details about the trip, and I'm going to hit on just some high notes here. So, on the 25th, it looks like Prince William will meet and welcome the Emperor and Empress. And then, after that initial greeting, King Charles and Queen Camilla will meet the couple at the Royal Pavilion for a ceremonial welcome. Then they'll follow that up with lunch at Buckingham Palace. And then we've got a visit to Westminster Abbey, where they will lay a wreath to honor the unknown soldier. Later that evening, they are planning to have a state banquet with the king and queen in attendance, along with, and this is what I read, members of the royal family. So I'm wondering if this may be when we might possibly see Princess Beatrice at the state banquet. I don't know. I know we've kind of talked about would she make an appearance there, but they will have engagements the next day. And they'll also join the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh the next evening for a banquet at Guildhall, where the Emperor will give a speech. And then the last day before they depart, they've got a few other stops to make, including, and this is interesting. So a couple of these stops, I thought was an interesting one to note. So they'll go to Windsor, and they will visit King George VI Memorial Chapel to lay a wreath on the tomb of the late Queen Elizabeth. And I actually didn't realize this, Rachel, but the Emperor and Empress both attended the University of Oxford. So
I
they're
didn't
going to
know
make
that
a stop
either.
there. Yeah. So they'll go there as well. And like I said, we'll get more details from this event, in the coming weeks, but I'm really excited. This event is still a go ahead. And I wanted to ask you, since you asked me about Trooping the Color, who do you think we might see at the state banquet?
All of my money is on Beatrice. I just think that this is her moment. Again, we talked about this in the last episode. I don't think that she nor her sister Eugenie will be a part of the working royal family core in any official capacity, but I do think that she is going to step up as able to help out. I think this is the perfect moment. It was just 1 year ago. I was just thinking about this because the Jordanian royal wedding happened 1 year ago on June 1st. We're recording on June 4th. And so that's been top of mind. And remember her tiara moment in Jordan at
Mhm.
that. I feel like we could see that again 1 year later for this state banquet. So I really do think that not to knock the Queen Camilla is beautiful and she comes with beautiful looks, but I think that that extra pizzazz that the Princess of Wales typically brings to events, I think that they're going to bring Beatrice in to bring that pizzazz and that glitz and that glamour. And I just, she's my number one choice out of everybody. I think that and possibly Edward and Sophie as well, maybe Princess Anne. But I just have a feeling that Beatrice is going to be there. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. And I like I said, I love this continued support that we're seeing. And I think so too. I feel like we'll probably see the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh also in attendance. So we'll just have to wait and see.
I'm just again glad that these two events are happening at all because we were pretty sure about Trooping the Color, but the I was not sure about the state banquet, nor do I think were you either. So I'm just happy to see those two events still on the calendar.
I was thinking about how we've had all the cousins together lately, and I just can't help but think that the late Queen Elizabeth would love to see their closeness right now.
For
I mean,
sure, for
as a
sure.
grandmother, she would get so much joy from
Well,
that.
and she leaned on her cousins too, like thinking about the Duke of
Mhm.
Kent, right? Like how close they were. And so she understands the importance of cousins. And so I think that especially now in the interim of Kate recovering and the king as well, I think we're going to see the cousins step up and I'll never turn down a chance to see Peter Phillips. So bring it on. Bring it on is all I have to say.
Well, we did see Peter Phillips' sister, Zara, last week. Speaking of cousins getting together and having a good time, she was at the Monaco Grand Prix, and so was Princess Beatrice again. We actually saw a picture of Princess Beatrice kissing Zara on the cheek. It was a really cute photo. I know you
Mhm.
saw it too, Rachel.
Yeah, it was cute.
Um, I have to make one note though. I don't know if you noticed this, but I was thinking, I don't know what Zara's skincare routine is right now, but she was glowing at the Monaco Grand Prix. I thought her skin looked so great. I don't know if you noticed, but really, really good photos coming out of that event.
All I want is Zara and Sophie's skincare routines. They are always glowing, I think. That's
Yes.
just my, armchair quarterback observation. But yes, Zara is stunningly beautiful, always.
Well, okay, one more note here while we're talking about the cousins. I did want to mention Princess Eugenie. She had a post last week on Instagram for baby Ernie's first birthday. I can't believe it's
Oh,
already
happy
been a year.
birthday. Happy birthday, baby Ernie.
Happy birthday. He turned one on May 30th, and she had this little carousel of photos, including one of him in this cute little Easter sweater. And then there was one of him and his big brother, August. And August was leaning over to give him a kiss kind of on the side of the face. It looked like they might have been at the museum. I saw like a dinosaur display in the background. So those were really cute. And I did notice, Princess Eugenie really does not share her children's faces on social media. She tends to try to hide that. And it made me think Harry and Meghan, they're also really hesitant to share their children's
And
faces in pictures.
Beatrice too with Sienna. I think the last one
Mhm.
I saw of Sienna was the back of her like walking away.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean I don't blame them at all. I mean, I
No.
would do the same probably, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where, William and Catherine really don't have a choice, but some of the cousins that do have a choice, I think, that's smart of them to choose privacy
Yeah,
while
and
the kids
as
are
they get
young.
yeah, and as they get older, like I'm thinking about the Tyndall kids right now, and then Peter's kids. They show, I mean, obviously they're like fully out there at Christmas and things like that, and at the Platinum Jubilee and so on and so forth. So maybe as they get older, but I mean, these, Eugenie and Beatrice's kids are, and the Sussex kids as well, are very, very young. So I
Mhm.
would do the same thing. And speaking of the Sussexes and birthdays, Princess Lilibet turned 3 years old yesterday, June 4th. Actually, it's really today, June 4th, as we're talking, but you will hear this on June 5th. So happy birthday to Lily. And we have seen the king and queen out quite a bit at varying occasions and events. So despite maybe a slower royal workload this week, the king and queen have kept busy. They visited the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art to mark the school's 120th anniversary. So the king was named patron earlier this month of the school, taking over a role held by his mother for 70 years. So actress, singer, and Rada, I hope I'm saying that correctly, are the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art Vice President Cynthia Erivo, who will star in Wicked later this year. I know a lot of people, including myself, are looking forward to that. She was there, and Camilla, who loves concerts and the theater, as do I, said during the visit that she took all of her grandkids to a performance of Guys and Dolls for a secret grandma grandkids night out recently. I don't know how she got away with that being secret, but she apparently did. So the king and queen also attended, sadly, a memorial service this week for Sir Chippendale Chips Keswick, who is the husband of Lady Sarah Keswick, who is one of the queen's companions, which is kind of our newish term, basically. Another way to say a lady in waiting. And then the king and queen attended, as they have been known to do, some good old horse racing. So why don't you tell us about that?
I feel like King Charles is trying to get really creative in how he can stay out of the house.
Out of his cage, like you said.
Yeah, now that he's, aware the royal diary is slimmed down during this election period, I think he's like, what can I do, to get me out and about, even though Camilla probably would prefer him lay low. But I think he's smart, because a good way to do that is to find activities that he knows Camilla will love and be on board with. So they were at a horse race this last weekend, and we saw them watching their horse Treasure compete at Epsom Downs. And it's kind of unfortunate, but I had to laugh. Unfortunately, he placed 11 out of 12 in the
Oh,
race. So,
Treasure. Oh.
I don't know how well his training's been going, but it was definitely a good excuse to get out and see a horse that was actually bred by the late Queen Elizabeth. And I know they were really into it, because one of the pictures I saw, Charles had his binoculars in hand, and Camilla was almost like trying to bite her nails, but she was wearing gloves. So, I felt like she was really into it as well. And I don't know if they were surprised that Treasure came in 11th
That's
11th place
God
or
love it,
not.
Treasure. God love it. You know what? Sometimes you come in first and sometimes you come in 11th. So next time, Treasure, next time.
Yeah, yeah, it was a fun event. I loved Camilla's outfit. She had this kind of a light blue two-piece on. She looked great. But and speaking of getting out and about, I know you've got a little getaway that the Prince and Princess of Wales took to tell us about.
Yeah, so if you are listeners looking to visit Wales anytime soon and want to stay where royalty stayed, specifically the Prince and Princess of Wales, we've got a hot tip here on Podcast Royal on where you should go. So this week, a previously unreleased photo was released by a bed and breakfast in Wales. Do you like bed and breakfast? I love a bed and breakfast.
It depends on the bed and breakfast.
Well,
I like a
yeah, true.
nicer one. I've seen a few that I didn't really prefer, but when I visited Maine a few years ago
I
with one of
remember when you
my
did
friends,
that. Yeah. Uh-huh.
and we stayed in a bed and breakfast there, and it was a really cute little experience.
Yeah, and I mean I agree, but you've got your hotels, you've got your Airbnbs, but an actual good bed and breakfast and a good B&B is great, I think. And so I'm sure that this one is, otherwise the Prince and Princess of Wales would not have stayed there. But anyway, so a bed and breakfast in Wales was reminiscing on a visit that William and Kate made there last year. It was a year ago at this time. So the photo was put on Dufferin Mar Country House's Facebook page on April 27th, but for whatever reason it just made its way into the public consciousness this last week. And the photo shows William and Kate posing with staff members numbers. And then another picture shared showed their signatures from the guest book. So the visit was made when William and Kate visited the Brecon Beatons, and the bed and breakfast called William and Kate so kind and friendly and said it was a pleasure to have them stay there. And so the visit happened in April 2023, which seems like a lifetime ago, but it was only a little over a year ago. So I want to address this story that's been floating around in the news where the First Lady of Nigeria was kind of incorrectly painted as saying something about Meghan that I don't think is what she meant. So we didn't discuss this on last week's episode, but the rumor mill, as it does, was making drama about Meghan where there is none, specifically about her and Harry's trip to Nigeria last month. So there were reports from various media outlets insinuating that the First Lady of Nigeria had criticized Meghan's wardrobe while Meghan was visiting the country on that, of course, that 3-day visit. First Lady Senator Oluyemi Tinubu is clarifying this, saying that a recent speech she made was misinterpreted. So according to the First Lady's office, the First Lady seeks to have it made clear that at no point did she say anything about Meghan's dressing. So if you haven't heard, on May 25th, the First Lady spoke at an event called Celebrating the Woman, where she gave a speech that emphasized the importance of setting a positive example for the next generation of Nigerians. So she also addressed in this speech mainstream American fashion. These are her words. We're not having the Met Gala, and everyone, nakedness is just everywhere, and the men are well clothed. So we have to do something. Tell them the way it is. We don't accept nakedness in our culture. That is not beautiful. It is not beautiful at all. And they are all beautiful girls, but they should be confident in who they are. They are mimicking and trying to emulate film stars from America. They don't know where they come from. Why did Meghan come here looking for Africa? That is something we have to take home with. We know who we are and don't lose who you are. So those are her remarks in part. So according to the First Lady's office, she wasn't shaming Meghan or attacking her wardrobe, but rather referring to her journey to understand herself and her heritage after Meghan learned that she is 43% Nigerian. So according to a statement from the First Lady's office, the First Lady this is a quote, meant Meghan appreciates the people we are and hence her coming here. At no point did she say anything about Meghan's dressing. So there you have it. And before I throw it to you, Jessica, I want to mention that tomorrow, June 6th, is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, which happened on June 6th, 1944. One of the most, if not the most consequential days in world history. We are going to talk more about D-Day next week as the royals are commemorating the occasion. And so I know that we will have much to say about it, but we wanted to recognize it before it happens and say a sincere and heartfelt thank you to all who served in World War II and who are still serving today. The greatest generation served in World War II, and I maintain that we could use a whole lot more greatest generation right now as we lose them because they're passing away, because time marches on. But we realize freedom is not free, and thank you to our veterans seems insufficient, but thank you so much for your service, and we remember you. And of course we'll talk more about D-Day next week.
Yeah, 100%. We recently had Memorial Day here in the US, which is a holiday here in this country. And so I don't think we mentioned it on the podcast, but we are absolutely aware that we get to celebrate because of the sacrifice others have made. So,
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Rachel, as a millennial, I was a big Spice Girls fan in the 90s. And I have to ask you, which Spice Girls song do you think is David Beckham's favorite?
Okay. I was a huge Spice Girls fan. I still am a huge Spice Girls fan. I listen to them from time to time, probably more than I care to admit. I'm just going to guess. I don't know the answer to this, but I think that he said that he saw Victoria, who would later become his wife, in the Say You'll Be There music video, and and he was like, wow, that woman is beautiful. That's my wife. So I'm just going to say that just for that reason alone.
Well, you're probably correct. I actually didn't look up what his favorite song is.
Oh, you don't know? You're just like making me speculate with no answer. Okay.
I couldn't help but think that it has to be Wannabe with an emphasis on the if you want to be my lover.
Oh, Jessica Robinson.
So,
That might be one of the most creative transitions you've ever done in 3.5, 4, however long, 4 years we've been on the air. Wow. Okay.
So you know where
I
I'm
see
going
what
with
you
this.
did there. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yes.
Yeah, apparently David Beckham has a knack for beekeeping, which I was surprised by. I learned that last week when it was announced that he had met with King Charles at Highgrove Gardens, and he talked about his love for the countryside. So I thought that was a really fun little story to get. And David is now actually serving as an ambassador for the King's Foundation. So he'll be raising awareness for the work being done at the foundation and supporting their programs that provide young people with access to nature. And, this is not the first time that we've seen him support the royal family. He's been involved with Earthshot Prize in the past. And I know we all remember when he stood in the queue for like 12 hours to
Mm-hmm.
see the late Queen lying in state following her passing a few years ago. So I think this is really fun news. I'll be excited to see what he does with the King's Foundation. And I also just thought it was cool to hear he's interested in beekeeping.
I think that's, first of all, I'm still not over your transition there. That's amazing. But I do now want to know what his favorite Spice Girl song is, but that will be an offline conversation. I think that's great. I mean, obviously, David Beckham is a huge royalist. He's said as much. He's a huge monarchist, and I just think that, like Peter Phillips, anytime I get to look at David Beckham, I'm not complaining. So, love it.
Well, shall we move on to royals around the world?
Let's do it. We've got a short lift today, so let's talk about what the royals around the world. We got a great story out of Jordan. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot that we're going to report on today, but we'll kick off with a happy 40th birthday to Prince Felix of Luxembourg. He celebrated on June 3rd.
Happy birthday.
And like you said, it's not big news out of Jordan, but we did mention, I don't know, it's been several weeks ago now that Princess Rajwa of Jordan is expecting a baby this summer. We still don't know her due date, but we did get official pregnancy portraits of her. They were released recently. And in the photos, she is in a really pretty bright red dress by Alice and Olivia, which this is a brand that I love their clothes. They have very cute
I do
clothes. So
too. I do too. I do too.
she had the dress paired with some gold statement earrings, and her hair was kind of softly curled and pulled sort of half up. But I did notice in the background of some of the photos, in one, it looks like there's some flowers. And then in one of them, it looked like there were fruit trees in the background. It was a really pretty setting, and I could not figure out exactly, it was blurred. So I don't know what kind of fruit it was. It looked like maybe there was like orange. I don't know if they were oranges, but it looked like some kind of an orange fruit. Anyway, so I'm excited for the baby's arrival. Can't wait, and we'll be looking out for that this summer.
Yes, me too. And we just see them so rarely, right? That it's just good to see a photo of them. And of course, we, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, we just celebrated their 1 year wedding anniversary. So
Mhm.
2023 was a big year for them, and 2024 looks to be as well. And so as we start to close Royals Around the World already, it's a short episode this week. We'll take it after the long episodes that we've been having the past few weeks. But I want to go to Spain for a minute. So I can't believe we've never talked about this, but I want to know what you know about Queen Letizia of Spain's engagement ring. What do you know about it? Because I didn't know much until I found this story.
Yeah, I really don't know anything about it.
Well, the reason why is because she has not worn it publicly in 12 years. 12 years since 2012.
Wow.
So, yeah, if you can't remember what it looks like, you're not alone because she hasn't worn the ring, which, by the way, is worth a staggering 25,000 pounds publicly in 12 years since 2012. And as you know, because Jessica said it, and I think the last episode, Letizia and her husband, King Philippe, just celebrated 20 years of marriage on May 22nd. So their engagement was announced in November 2003. At the photo call, Letizia showed off her really unique engagement ring that looks honestly a lot different from the traditional royal engagement ring. So we look, listeners, we are not unaware of the rumors surrounding Philippe and Letitia. And the reason Letitia doesn't wear her engagement ring has nothing to do with all of that. Just want to clear that up right off the top. But instead, she doesn't wear it because the ring hurts her hand, because she's always shaking hands with people she meets day to day in her royal work. And if you look at the ring, I can see that. So instead, and you'll, if you look at pictures of her, you will see her wearing this often. She prefers to wear a Karen Hallam gold plated ring, which many of you listeners and Jessica will probably recognize because she does wear it quite a bit. But the never seen engagement ring is a band with 16 vertically set baguette cut diamonds in either white gold or a platinum setting. Again, it is not the typical royal ring that features the large center stone and maybe some smaller stones on either side. So Letitia's engagement ring was made by Suarez, which is a Spanish brand. And as I said, it's worth a reported 25,000 pounds. And speaking of the cost of things, for her wedding to Philippe, Letitia's gown, which was designed by Manuel Pertegas, cost a reported 6 million pounds. 6 million pounds for a dress.
Oh,
Can't
that makes
can't
the ring sound cheap.
I know, right? But the ring is not cheap. And she wore a diamond tiara, the Prussian tiara, which was gifted to her by her mother-in-law, Queen Sophia, that is estimated to be worth 750,000 pounds. So I mean, add up the cost of the ring, the engagement ring, the tiara, and the dress. That's a lot of money. That's like 7 million, nearing $7 million on one bride. So by the way, Sophia wore the same tiara to her own wedding in 1962 when she married Philippe's father, King Juan Carlos. So it was a slow week this week. I found that story. I thought it was interesting. And now we
But
know.
you know what? This story is a little weird to me
Okay.
because don't you normally shake hands with your right hand and you wear
I
your
mean,
engagement
you're
ring
not
on your left
wrong.
hand?
You are not wrong. Maybe it's just too heavy. You know what I mean? I mean, it looks pretty heavy. Like it looks like a piece of solid hardware. If you look at this ring, it's a beautiful ring, but it looks heavy. It looks heavy on a hand. And I mean, it's definitely noticeable and it gets the point across that she is in fact an engaged
I'm
slash
just
married
saying,
woman.
if someone gave me an engagement ring worth 25,000 pounds, I think I would do some finger workouts
I
and
know, right?
make sure I
You
could wear
better
it.
build that hand strength up. You better start. What are those things that you like stress balls or like stress things that you squeeze together? You better get your hand strength up. That's funny. Yeah, but I mean, so if you're wondering, because like I guess I'd never thought about it, but now of course I can't help but notice that she really doesn't wear she wears that gold plated ring a lot. But yeah, now we know the case of the missing engagement ring, and it has nothing to do with tabloid rumors. So
I'll buy
more to
that
know.
maybe it's heavy and uncomfortable. I'm not sure I'm buying the handshaking part unless she would normally wear it on her right hand because I'm not
Maybe
buying that.
she's like a
So
double handshake person. You know what I mean? Like she cups the person's hand in both of her hands. I don't know, but that's what I do. What I do know is what you know now. So
I can definitely understand though. We've all of us girls have had a ring on our right hand and had someone just completely squeeze the heck out of your hand when you
mm,
shake, and that hurts.
true.
So
True, true,
notice
true.
if there are any men out there listening, it's a very delicate balance between being a limp handshake and something that feels like it's going to break your hand off. So you got to
Yes.
master that when you're shaking hands with a girl.
And to the two gentlemen who are listening to our show, remember when you buy your future fiance the engagement ring, make sure it's one that she can like that isn't going to break her hand and isn't. I mean, look, like first world problems, right? My ring is too heavy. Like what a first world problem. But
I
anyway,
feel like too, as the queen, um, I mean, I'm sure you're shaking hands, but aren't people curtsying and things to you
I
as
mean,
well?
one would think.
I'm not sold on the handshake theory. We'll have to do some further investigation, but I'll buy that it's probably super heavy for
It's probably
25,000.
uncomfortable, and you know what, just do you, but no, it doesn't have to do with tabloid rumors. Just want to clear that up.
All right. Well, this has been an interesting and fun episode. We've had a few laughs along the way. So,
Yes, and more to come as we actually have some things to look forward to in June where we weren't sure that we would.
we definitely do. So thanks for joining me and Rachel again here. And as always, come hang out with us on Instagram. We're at Podcast Royal. And if you've got questions for us or thoughts or comments about anything we chatted about today, either send us a DM on Instagram or send us an email at hellopodcastroyal@gmail.com. And we would love some more 5-star ratings and reviews to go read. That's always a fun surprise
Always,
for
yes.
us. So if you have a minute as we wrap up this episode, please go out to Apple Podcast and leave us a 5-star rating. And thank you so much for tuning into episode 143 of Podcast Royal. Bye.
Bye.